All right, guys. We're live for Caliber Corner number 92.5, the Strike Edition. We're talking about favorite battle rifles chambered in 308 or 7.62 by 51 millimeter NATO, if you prefer. Uh, yeah, Travis sent me the list of people that would show up, and nobody showed up but David Bolin. So I did give John Brown a link on Gun Channels if he wants to jump in, but he hadn't responded. So I don't know if he had a heart attack or if Munchkins attacked him or attacking the killer tomatoes happened. I don't know. So tell him to check his links. And we got a whole bunch of people out there on the YouTube side. So let's see who we got out there on the YouTube side. So, on the YouTube side, we've got Walter Davis, John Brown Productions. Get in here, John. We've got Jason Stewart out there. What's going on, Jason? We got Guy That Comments. Who else do we have?
NightStryke 1 is out there.
Yes, I'm out there. We got Southpaw RX out there. Hello, Southpaw. All right. I guess we got some stragglers. Guys, for those of you that don't know, I don't do Caliber Corner usually. That's Travis P11's show. I am filling in for him on Gun Channels and this week because due to work he can't get out of work to do Caliber Corner this evening. So I'm doing this, and I do not know how long it'll go. I have to keep it at least 2 hours, so I'm going to try and keep it 2 hours. But if it's just the two of us, well, insert song here. But we're going to try and get 2 hours out of this. If anybody has anything they want to say about, 308 battle rifles, let me know. If you want to jump in, let me know. I'll send you a link. So, yeah. All right. So let's get into it. Yeah, I'm not feeling it today, but again, show must go on. So, all right, 308 battle rifles. I've got one. Do you have one, David?
No, I wouldn't call them battle rifles. I mean, I'm building an AR-10, and I've got a Remington 500.
Technically, the AR-10 is a 308 battle rifle. It was used by Portugal, Sudan, Mozambique. It was used by those nations in the late 60s.
Well, then I'm building a battle rifle. Then just don't tell the state of Maryland that I called it a battle rifle.
You're building a semi-auto version, of course.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So we got a latecomer. We got somebody who actually just looked at his messages.
Actually, no. Your first link put me in an empty room.
Well, you should have looked at it. You should have looked at it. We've also got John Brown Productions. What's going on, John? Your microphone working? We can't hear you, John.
It's because I'm muted. Sorry.
Okay. Well, we got that. We got that fixed. All right. So, who else do we have out there on the YouTube side? We've got Seven Wonders is out there. Tacos and French fries. We got Two Live Moo and Rob D NY Outcast. So, that's who we got out there right now.
Stan from SS Pawn, stop by.
Stan from SS. Did he? Did Stan stop by?
Yes, he did.
Stan from SS Pawn. Hey, Stan. Thanks for jumping in. I'm not Travis, as you can notice. I'm filling in for Travis tonight because I owed him a favor. That's the funny thing about owing people favors and asking for favors. People collect. So, all right. So, guys, John, do you have any battle rifles in 308?
308, yes.
Which one do you have?
I have a semi-auto 1919 A4.
1919 A4.
Yeah.
Which one is that again?
That is the Browning MG. Mine is semi-auto, though.
So you mean the bar?
My bar is in 30-06. It's a Ohio ordinance, and it's semi-auto, too.
If you have a bar, then I'm going to call that a battle rifle, too, just because the factor that, the same bullet that's in the 30-06 cartridge is the same bullet that's in the 308 or the 7.62 by 51. It's the same diameter.
Yes, it is.
Which, by the way, if you didn't know what the diameter is, it's 3.308.
Yes.
So, yeah, there we go.
Also, the 300 Winchester Magnum is 308.
Yeah, you're right about that one too. So, hey, all right, we got something here. Dog Buddy, do you have a battle rifle?
Not in 308 currently, no.
Okay, well, we're gonna talk about some of the ones that are still being produced right now, and maybe you might want to look at getting one of these days.
I have a question for you, NightStryke.
Go for it.
Does my 7.62 by 39 AK count?
No, because we're talking about 308 battle rifles. We're talking about NATO.
Oh, okay.
We're not talking about Comblock or Warsaw Pact. We're talking NATO.
Okay.
Now, to be fair, I
didn't realize that.
I did own 2 AR-10s in the past. I had to sell them when I was moving. So
yeah, well, AR-10 would count. So yeah. AR-10. What anybody says, the AR-10, while it wasn't adopted by the United States military, there were many militaries elsewhere around the world, Mozambique, Sudan, Portugal, did contract and buy them and use them in civil wars and wars around the world in the 60s. So they were used.
they are widely used to this day still in parts of Africa. So
that's because they were used in Mozambique and they kind of spread out from there. So a guy that comments is saying that's racist. NightStryke, Slavic 308 rifle is fine. Well, you know what? I will meet you halfway. Guy that comments, if you're talking about the Zastava M77B1, which is the AK that's in 308, I'll accept that one. I'll accept that one, but only because it's in 308. So, all right. What are we gonna get into first on this? All right.
Well, do you have any 308 battle rifles, NightStryke?
Yes, I've got the Setme C308, the Century C308, which is basically it says a C308 Sporter on my rifle, but it is technically a Setme rifle, which was what the Germans who fled to Spain after Germany fell after World War II, so they wouldn't get hung at Nuremberg. They went to Spain and started making guns for Setme. And if you want to know what that means, I have no idea. I don't speak Spanish nearly as well. Well, not Spain Spanish, but that's neither here nor there. I don't speak Spanish well enough to tell you what it is, but it was basically their state-run research and firearms research and development and factory. Okay, that's basically what Setme was. And the Germans went and made the Setme rifle. Then eventually they were allowed to go back. Those same Germans were allowed to go back to Germany, and they would. Well, at the time it was West Germany at that point, and they weren't going to get hung. And they started working for the company that became HK, and they made the G3s. And the reason why West Germany made licensed the Setme and redid a couple parts and turned it into the G3 is because the Belgians said no when the West Germans wanted to license and make the FAL rifles in their own country.
I got a question here.
The Belgians were pretty sore about World War II after that.
Midnight Range is asking a question, and To me, it sounds like a serious question, but you might think he's just messing with you. But he says, can you load? You can load 308 into a 7.62 by 39 case. Does that make your AK a 308 battle rifle?
I think he's being facetious there.
I
No,
do
that
too.
that just makes your AK that's chambered in 7.62 by 39 blow up in your face. So
No,
I mean-
it just makes it bounce. The bullet bounce down the barrel
no,
because it's too small.
I wouldn't do that. I would only only shoot 7.62 by 39 if that's what the rifle is designed for. Do not shoot anything through your rifle that it's not designed for. Period. Okay. And for people saying, but NightStryke, isn't there something about 7.62 by 51 and 308 we need to worry about? And yes, if your rifle is specifically stating that it's in 7.62 by 51 millimeter NATO, and it's one of those older rifles, then you don't want to shoot commercial spec 308 Winchester out of it because it will hurt your gun. Because older spec 7.62 by 51 millimeter NATO is lower pressure than modern commercial spec 308.
Well, what about modern commercial spec 7.62 by 51?
That's fine.
Is it pressured the same as the modern 308?
Not really. It's negligible at that point. You can use either.
But there would be a big difference in the older stuff.
In the older stuff, like say you got one of those old Spanish Mausers that were converted to 7.62 by 51 millimeter NATO. Okay, they say they're in 308, but they mean 7.62 by 51. And what they mean by 7.62 by 51 is there was before Spain went and adopted the 7.62 by 51 millimeter NATO cartridge, they were toying around with the 7.62 by 51 SETME cartridge. And they were using a lot of that through those rifles as well as early SETME rifles. And then they converted everything over to 7.62 by 51 NATO and, called it a day because everybody else was using it. So, again, but that's just I just want to mention that because I don't want anyone getting hurt because of higher pressure ammunition. That's a no-no. So, all right. Dave.
I got a quick translation for your SETME.
All right.
It says a bunch of Spanish words, and then it says or Center for Technical Studies of Special Materials. That's what it stands for in English.
Okay. Center for Technical Studies of Special Materials.
Yeah.
I think that's what that is. Yeah. So that was the state-run research and development and factory that Spain used after World War II, and subsequently the Spanish Civil War as well.
So what is the American equivalent? What is the go-to historical American 308?
Well, that's just it. We've got two different we technically we'll get technical here because we're gonna allow 30-06 into this just real quick because we kind of have to. All right, so the M1 Garand technically was the first United States battle rifle. Okay, but because 7.62, what was it? I think it's 7.62 by 63, isn't it?
You have to ask John Brown that one.
I'm looking up. Yes, because 7.62 by 63 millimeter, which is 30-06, was way too heavy for soldiers to carry. Large quantities of ammunition with them. They decided to see if shortening the cartridge case and just using the same bullet would make it easier, and it did. It did, but then it didn't fit in the M1 Garand, so they modified the M1 Garand into what's now known as the M14, or if you want the semi-auto variant, the M1A.
Okay, so what does your average everyday soldier got in the guns that they carry when they're actually at war, not patrolling or securing, but they're at war and in a fight? What
Well,
do they carry the 308 or are they 5.56 or?
Well, if we're talking, we're talking Cold War era. If we're talking, when this stuff was new, we started using the M14 towards the end of the 50s, the early 60s. Right about when we started getting into Vietnam, the United States specifically. I'm speaking. Okay, and what you do and don't know about the Vietnam is, yes. It was longer than just we were there since the 60s. We were actually even there. We were actually even helping the French out in the late 50s there, because at that part of the world was technically still a French colonial era, and then we just basically adopted the war from the French because they didn't want to deal with it. So we can blame the French for Vietnam, but the point of it is, we started using in the late 50s, early 60s. We started using the M14 in the jungles of Vietnam, fighting off the Viet Cong, and overall, it's a good rifle. It performed well, but the problem is because you have a wood stock. Okay, you're using that wood stock rifle. You're in the jungle. It gets wet a lot. Wood doesn't normally like getting wet often, because eventually the wood will rot. We all know this, okay? So instead of the soldiers complained that the ammunition they were carrying was too heavy, so basically the United States government adopted the M16, and that was the end of that. And all the soldiers that were getting to Vietnam to fight in Vietnam were asking where the heck their M14s were when they were issued M16s, because they were trained in the United States on the M14 platform, and then they were handed this new plastic rifle and asking, what the heck is this?
Well, why do you think that the AR-10's popularity is nowhere near the AR-15's popularity? Is it just because of the cost of the rounds?
I think it's because of the cost of the round of the ammunition. Yes, so some 308 ammo is more expensive than standard 5.56 or hell even 223 Remington, because with the AR-15 you can, if you have an AR-15 chambered in 5.56, then you can use 223 Remington out of it all day long. You can use regular Milsurp 5.56. It's just the issue is that with 308, it's harder to get surplus 308. It's not impossible, but it's a little harder. It's still more than 5.56 or 223, and unless you're a really cheap person like myself who just shoots steel case because, well, there's no point in me shooting brass out of a delayed roller blowback rifle with chamber fluting. You want to shoot 308 out of brass because you can reload it. But if you have like a G3, a SETME, a C308, a PTR91, an HK91, it does you no good to shoot brass ammo because the fluting in the chamber literally destroys the brass after once fired. And guy that comments asks, why didn't they go for a plastic stock M14? I heard that they were looking at doing some sort of what was it? The Chinese and the Viet Cong did it. They had some sort of plastic SKS stock they were using. Not plastic, it was fiberglass. They were using fiberglass stock. They were looking at fiberglass M14 stocks, and there was even a type of M14 stock that had a traditional. It looked more like a standard rifle where it had the. It looked similar to an M16, even though it's still wood stock, where it had the stock, and the stock had a pistol grip built into it, and that would have made
That was the M14E2. That was the
yes,
squad automatic weapon version.
yeah, and that one, I still say if they adopted something like that and used that as the overall across the board, I'm pretty sure the M14 would have performed a hell of a lot better because just because it had the pistol grip on it, it had more of a stock that we know today, being on a full length rifle, it would have been better for our troops across the board.
Hey, can I jump in real quick, NightStryke?
Go ahead.
I just want to go back to the point about why is the AR-10 not as popular as the AR-15? The ammo cost is, you're right, that's definitely a huge factor.
That's the huge factor.
Another factor is it's been a while since I've built one, but I know when I went to build mine, the parts are considerably more expensive.
Well, I'm gonna argue with you there. That was true when they started making AR-10s, commercially. But with have you checked the deals from PSA?
Well, again, I built mine 8+ years ago. So
I've been checking the deals from PSA, and now if you play your cards right with the deals that they have on all the darn time, you can build one for like $400 or $500. I'm not kidding.
Well, nowadays, I don't doubt you. Nowadays, you very well can, but that wasn't the case during that big AR boom.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one because PSA got they weren't late to the game, but they came in a little bit before the midway point.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That's why the AR-10 didn't take off. Is at the time when the AR platform was kind of having its resurgence. The AR-10 platform was just so much more expensive. You could build 2 to 3 AR-15s for what it was costing to do an AR-10 back then. And then the ammo cost on top of that. And most people building them were building them as plinking rifles. You're not going to build the most expensive plinking rifle usually.
Right. And
there's one other issue with the AR-10. And sorry I'm late, guys. But their parts regularity. You got different manufacturers have different standards that their parts are made to where you can take one bolt from one AR-10, try to put in another AR-10, and it might not fit.
Right, that's definitely true.
Yeah, but PSA rifles, PSA AR-15 and AR-10 parts are made using the DPMS spec. So, there is some interchangeability there.
Advice: if you are going to get into building an AR-10, I recommend you start off with the DPMS spec because that's going to give you the most options.
Yeah.
Guy that comments had a question out on the YouTube side. He says, also, wasn't there a complaint that the 308 rifles being too difficult to manage with full auto?
Yeah. Well, there was. I will give you that, but that didn't stop the Germans. That didn't stop the Belgians, or even the Swiss from making the FAL, from making the G3.
Yeah,
and the SIG SG, was it 57?
Yeah, the thing is, with all those rifles you just named, all were from the same period as the M14.
Yeah.
If you look at the later rifles, each of those countries, they went to a different caliber as well.
They went to most of these nations in question that we're talking that adopted a 308 or 7.62 by 51 NATO rifle were at one point or still are associated with NATO. So everybody adopts to a 5.56 style rifle. What the Spanish did? They had SETME make another SETME, which became the Model L, which was chambered in 5.56 and took AR mags.
Yeah, I don't know that the Belgians and the Swedish are known for their military prowess either. I mean, Germany's a different story. Germany was pretty hardcore there for a while, but
The Swedes, yeah, they're not. You don't want to mess. The Swedes are similar to the Swiss. You really don't want to mess with them very often. And remember, the Swedes were one of the Scandinavian countries that so-called Vikings came from. So I mean,
Yeah.
that,
You don't want to mess with them unless you absolutely have to.
yeah. And the Belgians have been a center of firearms manufacture since Europe started making firearms. They've been doing it for a long time.
Right, I
They-
was just going back to Guy That Comments video about the military aspect in the full auto 308.
Absolutely, it is good. It is something to note that it was the 308. You know, in full auto, it was a little uncontrollable. But I'm going to tell you this right now: the same thing with 30-06. I mean, John, if your bar was in full auto instead of semi-auto, that would be pretty hard to control, wouldn't it be?
Well, actually, the BAR, depending on which one you have, remember there were multiple variants of that as well.
There were.
They're not as uncontrollable as the say the M14 because they weigh more. Weight is a big mitigating factor of the recoil that you and the controllability of the BAR compared to say the M14.
Which is a huge reason why they were one of the things they were trying to do is they were trying to reduce the weight, the overall weight of the loadout, which is why guns like that started to fall out during that period.
And he goes, "Isn't that why bars weighed like 14 pounds?"
By the time World War II BARs came around, they were approaching 20 pounds.
Yeah, the bar is not a light rifle. It's specified as a light machine gun, but it is a rifle.
Well,
Regardless of
originally
what
it
they
was supposed
say.
to be a rifle. That's why it's the BAR,
Yeah.
the Browning Automatic Rifle. It wasn't supposed.
Yeah.
They weren't originally intended for them to be using them the way they ended up using them.
Right.
And there was absolutely no reason for them to make that rifle as heavy as it was by the time World War II came around. It functioned just fine at the weight it was during World War One. They made a bunch of changes to it that were absolutely unnecessary and made that thing weigh a ton.
Well, I think what you saw there was the difference in time period and what we were experiencing in war versus what they had planned. Because it seemed like most of the modifications they did to the BAR were kind of like trench warfare minded, and that wasn't the situation we were in anymore.
Right. And with and that's why they made the transition to 308 because I thought that since if you cut the cartridge length in half, well, not in half, but if they cut it down.
Yeah.
If they cut it down but use the same bullet, they would get they would get at least similar ballistic effects. And overall, they were right about that. But still, the ammunition was still too heavy for the soldiers. In the quantities they were giving them and where they were sending the soldiers. Apparently,
I got a
Yeah.
quick question for Muscle Dog. Oh, you go ahead, brother, if you got something to say. I got a question for you when you're done.
Well, no, I was just going to agree with NightStryke. So go ahead.
You said you sold your AR-10s. Would you ever get back into, or did you ever get back into the AR-10, or is that something that you would be interested in doing, or is that time past?
It's something I would like. So eventually, when when I'm not busy with a half 1,000 projects, I will build before my eyesight goes. I plan on building a AR-10 one more time so that I can attempt my 1,500 yard shot. So that is the platform that I want to attempt that shot with before I completely lose my eyesight.
all right. Well,
It's just not feasible right now. I mean, I got tons of guns, and throwing all that money into a gun right now is just not optional.
If you want to answer another question, guy that comments said, so past 500 yards, you need an optic. Is that why you got rid of the 308s and 30-06? I guess that's for you.
I'm not sure because I didn't own one in 30-06, but
Yeah, maybe that's a question for somebody else. Then I'm sorry.
I think that's more of the government that did that. I don't know anyone who would willingly get rid of a 30-06 rifle.
Yeah, I can't read all that well. He said why they So he's definitely going back to the military.
Yeah.
Well, the military still he also has 308 in there. Military still uses 308.
Yeah, the
The
military.
M240 308. I mean,
Now, what they did, I do know what the military did, and Rich backed me up on this, but the military did take a version of the M14, turn it into a sniper rifle, and did put a scope on it.
yeah, the M39 EMR. The M39 EMR is essentially a semi-auto M14 that's set up as a DMR.
Yeah, and then there's also another stipulation with the M14 again, where I do remember that when we were getting into Iraq and Afghanistan, that someone decided to take an M14 or like an M1A barrel, one of the shorter barrels, and they made like the M14 SOCOM rifle, which was basically a 16-inch M14, and they used a composite stock instead of like an artificial stock instead of a wood stock, and they started using those in limited quantities in Iraq as well. What did they call that? The SOCOM 16 or something like that? Rich, you would know this better than I would.
I don't know of any designation of that. The only SOCOM in the M14 platform I know of is the Springfield M1A.
So, guy that comments, you're talking about the 308's effective range being 700 to 800 yards. Anything past 500, you need an optic. I don't really care what the caliber is. If you plan on reliably hitting anything that far out, you're going to need an optic.
Right.
So, and yes, the further out you go, the better optics you're going to need to invest in.
Yeah, but I mean, once you get to 500 yards, iron sights trying to hit something you're starting to get into wishful thinking territory, because you're just not going to see the target as well with your naked eye as you would with an optic.
Right. So there's that. So I've got a Century C308, which is basically a mishmash of SETME parts and G3 parts, because it's the same rifle. It really is. Yes, some of the parts look different. Some of them function a little different, but they achieve the same goal. So that's why if you look at the trigger pack for the SETME and the G3 or the HK91, they look different because the Germans went and redesigned it, because the original SETME trigger pack is garbage.
It's too complicated.
It's too. They overcomplicated it, and because they overcomplicated it, it doesn't always work. That's why I switched it out for the PTR, which is the HK91 variant. But regardless, it's all the same rifle.
Mine is beautiful. You could bump fire it really quick.
You can bump fire mine too now if you want, because I put the PTR, the PTR trigger pack in it.
Mine still has a SETME.
Yeah, well, I still have the SETME one. I'm just not using it.
Yeah.
You have wood on yours, and I wish I have wood stocks and stuff for mine, but they're not complete.
Yeah. Guy that comments out there asking now, don't Spec Ops use AR-10s? Spec Ops forces.
They'll use whatever they want.
Army, Air Force, Navy, whatever. They'll use what they get. They get pretty much whatever gun they want. If they want an AR-10 for a particular mission and they have it in the inventory, they can use it.
If they want a K98K because reasons, they'll get a K98K.
Yeah, they pretty much have. When it comes to weaponry, if it exists and they think they need it for a mission, they can get their hands on it or something that's very similar to it.
If they want a 16th century match gun, they'll have a 16th century match gun.
Don't think that the AR-10 they're going to get if they want one is going to be the same that a normal soldier is going to get.
No, the AR-10 is probably going to be a full auto AR-10.
Yeah, they're going to get an AR-10 specific that's built.
You're right. They could get a burst AR-10. Who knows?
Well, my point is, if they were asking for an AR-10, they're probably going to have an AR-10 that's specced out for a very particular purpose that they have planned for it. They're not,
Absolutely.
they're not picking that gun because they want an AR-10. They're picking it and they're going to get something custom built for maybe a particular shot or
Right.
XYZ.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know that they've used AR-10s in Spec Ops as a match grade AR-10 for DMR use. So there's all kinds of different things that they could do with the AR-10 if they wanted to. Most of the time that I've heard of, it's going to be like in a DMR type of situation where they want something that can reach out that far.
Exactly.
So Rich, do you have a 308 battle rifle?
Do I have a 308 battle rifle? No, not currently.
Okay. Have you had one in the past?
I haven't had one in the past, but I fired them in the past.
Okay, you fired in the past. All right, we'll give you that one.
I have 2 of them.
Yeah, you've got your C308, and what else do you have, Foos?
Oh, Ishapur infield.
Oh, you've got the Ishapur Enfield where they rebarreled it. Yeah.
No, it's not rebarreled. It's new. It was an Ishapur, and it was made in '67, so it was made for 308. It wasn't rebarreled.
Okay, it wasn't rebarreled. It wasn't the rebarrel, but some of those were rebarreled. You do know that, right?
Yes, but yeah, mine was made late enough to where it wasn't. It still has Cosmoline all over it.
And if anyone is asking, the Enfield, the Ishport Enfields, some of them were rebarreled from 303 to 308, and some of them were just converted outright.
Made outright, yeah.
Yeah, where they just went straight down the barrel and just redid it.
Yeah, and there were
Don't
also
ask me
ones
why
that
they
were
did
done
that.
through-
It's the Indians. Ishapur.
No, the reason they did that is because shortly after World War II, whenever India gained independence, the United States like, hey, once you in NATO, the UN, UN, and they're like, well, we're just going to keep with these rifles that we have. And they're like, well, we'll give you like 1 point some odd billion rounds of 308. So they just started making rifles in 308 and put a whole bunch more nickel in their barrels to make them stronger.
Exactly.
Guy that comments wanted to know how come we haven't talked about the SCAR 308 cost, weight, or short barrel.
Well,
SCAR,
I don't have that much experience with
SCAR. SCAR has a 16 and 18-inch barrel. Our C308s have an 18-inch barrel.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do much about the barrel. It's the SCAR. It looks
SCAR
like
has
an
the
UGG
collapsible
shoe.
stock. That's it.
It looks like an UGG shoe.
Not to mention they destroy optics.
Yeah, there are 20-inch SCAR in 308 out there. I mean, it's not necessarily a short barrel rifle by any stretch of imagination.
No.
They're not all carbines.
Right. So, well, all right. Let's talk about some. If anyone wants to get a 308 battle rifle, that's in production right now. Why don't we talk about some of the ones that are in production? So, the ones that are in production the ones that are in production right now. Again, you can get a SCAR if you want to pay, a ridiculous amount of money. I won't argue. If you want to pay a moderate amount of money, you can get the M1A from. I hate to say from Springfield Armory, but there's also
James River.
James River Armory that also makes M14 copies. That they sell them at Classic Firearms as well. So if you want that,
you realize some of those M1As are approaching the same price as the SCAR, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But it has wood on it, so it's better.
But yes, it has wood.
So you do have some AK derivatives.
As we talked about, the Zastava M77 B1 is in 308. You can get those. They're still making those out of the box and importing them.
IWI is going to be bringing in a bullpup 308.
Yeah, that's a 4.7.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bullpup. That's not a battle rifle. It's
a battle rifle.
Well, it absolutely is. Absolutely, it is. It is a full power semi-auto rifle. It is a battle rifle. It's full power rifle. It's a battle rifle. Yeah.
Yeah, IWI also has the Galil Ace in 308.
Yep. Yes. That's one I missed. So thank you for bringing that up because the Galil is a good rifle. Otherwise they wouldn't use it. Granted, it's believe it or not, it is a derivative of the AK.
Yep.
But again, it's an Israeli derivative, so it's going to be more friendly to the United States than most
actually,
AKs.
The Galil is made off of the Finnish AK. It is
Yeah, it is a derivative of the Finnish one. What was the name of the Finnish one? I forget. Valmet. That's right. Valmet.
And that, of course, is a better put together AK, in my opinion, than a Russian one.
And remember, the Vector R4, which is used by South Africa, is a derivative of the Galil.
It's not a derivative; it's an exact copy.
Well, it's a license.
What the South Africans did was they ordered some Galils from the Israelis before the sanctions were put against South Africa. And then once that happened, they couldn't import them from Israel anymore. So what IWI, which was IMI at the time, did was license a company in South Africa to actually produce them and get around the sanctions.
And gave them the technical package, yep. So what other 308 battle rifles are out there?
Okay, so what other ones are out there? So we mentioned the M1A. Why don't we mention this one? You can still get a FAL. I know DSA Arms. They make new FALs if you want a new FAL, but again, you are going to pay a bit of money. You're looking upwards between $1,500 to $2,000.
So for really the new, I'm going to quote unquote new budget or a new firearm that is a battle rifle that is probably within budget for most people is going to be your AR-10, and that's about it for the budget.
No, I'm going to argue with you on that. Yes, the AR-10 definitely is probably the most budget conscious one. Now, again, as we said, you most likely want to go with the DPMS form factor style of the AR-10 because you're going to have the most modularity and parts compatibility with that because PSA makes them, DPMS makes them.
Other
companies make them under that profile, and that's the one I prefer and we recommend.
So that's kind of why I stayed away from the AR-10 platform, is because there's no set standard.
That is true. It's true. But again, it's becoming a little more modular now, a little more, there's actually
it's becoming standard now. More standardized.
Standardized. So now we have something to go by. There's also, and I know people are going to rap on me saying, but NightStryke, doesn't the C30 isn't there the C308? You can get the C308 at reasonable prices. But again, some people have stated they've had issues with their C308.
So
Goose hasn't had issues with his.
Mm-mm.
I have. I fixed my issues. I'm happy with my rifle. Now,
so, but I got mine, and the first thing I did is I sent it to a guy about an hour away that makes hand-built HK anything, and I had him put a paddle mag release on mine. So with what I paid for that, as well as the gun, I could have went out and got a brand new PTR and had the better rear sight and more adjustability of the front sight for about $50 more.
Right.
So
did he do anything with the trigger pack?
No.
Okay.
No. So the thing is with the C308s, you get kind of an outdated rear sight. It's absolutely fully functional.
It's the original set-me rear sight.
Yeah. It goes.
But they do weld. The newer ones do weld a Picatinny rail right in front of the sight, so you could put an optic on.
Yes, but if you put an optic on there with an AR riser in it, your dot to get zeroed will be right at the very. Sorry, having a little alcohol here, burping. It will hit in the very top of your front sight cover. So to get it zeroed, your dot won't be hitting your target; it'll be hitting your front sight post. This front sight cover.
I am having
an issue.
some adjustments with mine because with the I got a ridiculous scope that Travis recommended that could handle 308. You know, the 308 recoil, and the issue is I had to use risers because the scope I put on there, I
Hit
couldn't
your rear.
I couldn't pull the charging handle back and put it in place because the scope was in the way.
Right, and you still had to clear that rear sight.
Yeah.
So like one C308 and HKs are absolutely great. They're beasts. They're reliable. They run and run and run and run. So optics are very difficult to put on it, as kind of we're talking about.
We're talking about the C308 right now, but HK91s are
same thing.
Well, and if you can get an HK91, granted you're gonna pay more money for it. Just
well, whenever I say HK91, the PTR 91 is where I would go. I would not go full HK because the price. You're not going to get the price.
If you're worried about getting a C308 and it not performing as well as you want it to because you're worried about quality control with Sentry,
get a PTR.
Get a PTR. They're made here in South Carolina where I live, and they have you can get them as cheap as $800, and then as much. And if you want a higher end version. They sell higher end versions, which go well into up to like $1,500.
Yeah, right, you'll spend right around $1,000. But the thing is, like mine, like I had someone put on the paddle mag release. It is an HK paddle mag release. It's not a SIMI, so the geometry on it's a little off. He did have to take and shave a little bit. It's smooth, but it's stiff. But a PTR, I felt PTRs that are nice, light, and crisp, and ready to go. So it depends on what you want to do with it. I got my C308 extremely cheap. I got it for under $500.
I got mine for right at $500 when they were starting to sell them for $700.
Yeah.
Real quick, guys. Guy that comments, you're asking about mags. If you want the most mag options, where you're going to probably get the best mag prices, you're going to want to go with the AR-10.
Well, hold on. Sorry, I'm going to go with the the HK because right now you can still get aluminum mags for the PTR or for the HK style. Same with what my C308 sent me all that we're using. We're getting those. I can still get them for like less than $5 a mag. They hold 20 and they run. They work.
I can get mine between $2 and $4 pop.
Yep. All right, well, then I'll stand corrected. I didn't realize the HK mags were that cheap.
Yes, they're aluminum mags. They're plentiful. The reason they're not higher is there's a crap ton of them, and not many gun owners of that style.
He also then
I used to get the semi mags for between $5 and $8 a piece too.
Yeah, and then he also asked which guns have interchangeable mags.
Which
HK and C308 will interchange.
Yeah, I believe your STAR uses the same mags as the AR-10, doesn't it?
The DPMS style of AR-10, yes.
Yes.
But if you go the other one,
does the Ace Coolio and 308 use the AR-10 mags as well?
No,
or do they use an AR-10, or are they using an AK more stuff? They changed that up with the Ace. The Ace, not all Ace models use AK style mags.
So those are the Rockin' mags. The IWI, the Tavor 7 or whatever that's coming out, that takes a DPMS style mag.
Yeah, that one does. And then he asks, why do they always do 20 rounds, go 30? Weight.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Wait,
weight in position.
Well, here's the thing. You can get 30-round magazines for the HK91, the G3. They made 30-round magazines. The
35s.
They had 30s too. I've looked at getting them. Problem is, I'm not paying $100 for a rare 30-round magazine.
It's not that. It's not weight. It's length. Whenever you go prone.
That's what I'm saying.
If you go prone and you have a 30-round mag sitting under you, you're going to be sitting a lot higher than if you have a 20-round mag sitting under you.
Yeah, and a 30-round mag. If you're carrying 5 30-round magazines, each one of those magazines is going to weigh a third again as much as what a 20-round mag would. So if you add that up, you're carrying, say, 6 magazines. That's an extra. Say each magazine normally weighs. Anyway, you add the weight up, and it starts to add up when just from just that 10 round difference from each mag. So one of the reasons why they are 20 in those magazines is it's a weight factor. If you look at when the M14 came out, they were looking at 30 round magazines. They cut them back to 20 because of weight, not just the prone, but because of weight factor. They did the same thing with BAR.
And
BAR,
another reason, well, yeah, BAR is 25, I think.
No, they use 20.
They're 20. Well, and another thing, you're not going to sit there and let's say you do get into a firefight where you're shooting around a tree or something like that, like trees your only cover. The AR, you'll stick it out there and you'll just start pulling the trigger and you'll have 30 rounds. You're not going to be shooting a 308 as fast as an AR either.
No, you're not. You're just not.
You're not going to.
Yeah, and again,
unless you hit the fun switch, then you just pull the trigger and it just goes.
Again, as I said, the SETME and the G3 are identical as far as looks and function. Some of the parts in the trigger group are different, so that's what you have there. But the SETME and the HK Heckler Koch G3, they're pretty much the same rifle. They have some parts that aren't interchangeable, but most of the parts are. Okay, there's a list on the internet if you want to get into the nitty gritty. But for all intents and purposes, it's the Germans licensed the SETME and made updates to it, and it became the G3.
So, but I know we're really talking a lot about the SETME, is because I know I have experience with it. I know NightStryke does as well. Throw away that Century Arms muzzle brake and get a good muzzle brake. It's cut. So PTRs, I don't know if they're cut for the right thread pitch. The AR-10s are, but I know the C308s are, and I know the HKs are not. Does anyone know if Zenith is going to be coming out with a
308?
A 308.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything yet, but Zenith's an odd bunch. They might surprise us.
Yeah, I remember when
because they're using those type of rifles over there too.
Yeah, well, they actually bought basically a factory's worth of machinery from HK whenever HK upgraded theirs. So they are making their guns on German-built stuff. So it's I would have no problem getting a Zenith except for, again, price. And the reason it's that much is it's economics of scale. They're not gonna put out 100,000 units and sell 20,000 units and be able to make a profit. Whereas in an AR-10 style, you can, if you make 100,000 units, you're going to sell 100,000 units, so you can sell them at a cheaper price.
Well,
it's economies of scale,
right? So, but again, for anyone asking, okay, HK 91s and the HK 91 is the semi-auto variant of the G3.
Yep.
Okay, if we hadn't said that before, I just want that to be specifically clear. The C308 or even the SETME Sporter from Century Arms is the semi-auto version of the SETME rifle from Spain. Okay, the original. All right. Now, at some point, I don't know if it wasn't because of the assault weapons ban, or I guess there was just a ban on HKs being imported into the country. So at some point, all the HK91s stopped coming into the United States.
You can still get HK91s. You can still get new HKs.
Can we? Because I heard at one point. I heard at one point they were banned.
They're going to be starting to manufacture them here, so you'll be able to get new ones for sure.
Yeah.
But part of the problem is that stupid sporting purpose nonsense that went in. That's why for a while, you didn't see any new HK rifles coming into the country was
Because they were banned from import.
yeah, it was
Well,
basically
they had to be cut
they weren't banned
into.
from import. They had to be done. They had to have certain changes to make them more of a sporting rifle. That's why we don't get a true G3 clone from HK brought into the country. They brought that other thing in that was basically the G3 internals inside of a different polymer frame.
You mean the G36?
Yeah, G36. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did I say? G3. The
Yes.
G3 is the PT. It's the but you get what I meant. You get what I was getting to.
Believe it or not, I am a bit of an HK fan. I'm not a fan of their customer support because their customer support is garbage. But
but I definitely meant G.
But their firearms are lovely. I love the firearms.
Well, here, I'm going to try to close this up for a guy that comments because he keeps asking about different mag sizes. It all comes down to situational. Whether 20 or 30 or 25 or 10 round or whatever it might be, that all comes down to very situational things and how much clearance you're going to need to be prone, where you're going to be shooting from. And it's not a matter of whether or not 20 or 30 or 25 or any of that is really best. It's just a matter of how the gun's intended to be used, the situation you're going to have to fire from. Those are all things that get taken into account when people pick out their loadout. So we can sit here and have an infinite debate about what's best, and it would end up going nowhere because it's a situational question.
One of the things I heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but with rifles, they just want to keep them in 10-round increments as far as whether it be 20 or 25. That's what I was told by somebody years ago. Again, I don't know if it's true or not, but 20, they like their 10-round numbers in rifles and for whatever reason. Take that for what it's worth.
Well, the reason that they like 10-round rifles is because, or 10-round increments is packs of 5, packs of 10, stuff like that. Is easy packing and easy shipping.
Right. So, what other new production 308s battle rifles can we get?
ACR?
Well, the ACR is that? Do they have a 308 variant?
I thought they had a 308 variant of that.
I couldn't tell you.
I don't know, but there's less 308s semi-auto or 308 battle rifles out there than what you think. Because you think about the 5.56 or intermediate calibers.
Everybody made something in 5.56.
Right. No.
308 was the precursor, so there wasn't as many made because everybody quickly changed over to 5.56.
Yeah. So I know we are talking about battle rifles in 308, but there's also another one out there that's not in 308 that is a dang good battle rifle, and that's a Moss 4956.
Yes, the Moss 4956. Well, funny you should mention that. The French
it's a different caliber. The caliber is a great caliber.
Funny you should mention that because that reminds me the French did make a 308 battle rifle. I'm gonna look it up. Right?
Did you guys talk about the FAMAS? Because I think the FAMAS is 308.
There was a
the FAMAS is 5.56 by 45
NATO. Not the one we're talking about.
The FAMAS. I've never seen.
We're talking about the FAMAS Type 62, which was chambered in 7.62 by 51 millimeter NATO or 308. Not really 308.
So just remember, 7.62 by 54 is not 308. If it's saying 7.62 by 54, and you shoot through it,
that's
Russian. We're
sorry. 7.62 by 51.
Yes.
If it says that, and you shoot 308 out of it, you are going above its design pressures. You are well below the proof pressures, but you are above the design criteria of that barrel.
That's why I haven't brought up the PSG one yet.
Yeah, but of course, this Ishapore, I'm going to be shooting steel case. Well, actually, I'll probably shoot both steel case and brass case 308 through it. But I have a lot of whenever I go out and buy 308, very seldom do I buy 308. I usually buy 7.62 by 51 because you can get FMJs out of that, and 308 is all hunting rounds.
We're also getting asked again. This time, we're getting asked about barrel length. Why it seems like they all come in 18 inches versus 21 and 22.
It's a better compromise.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's my understanding as well.
Hold up. I want to get back to the FAMAS. Okay, so I'm gonna screen share. I'm at Forgotten Weapons because they've got an article, a French magazine article of this. So I'm gonna screen share this real quick. But this is the FAMAS Type 62, which was chambered in 7.62 by 51 millimeter NATO. Okay, it looks different than the FAMAS we're all used to knowing as just the normal FAMAS rifle that is chambered in 5.56. Okay, but I believe this is the precursor to it because look at some of the variants that they had right here. They had a folding stock variant, and hey, look at that bullpup style.
Looks like a high point.
And we are talking about 7.62 by 51.
We are talking about
whenever it comes to this FAMAS and a lot of military rifles. A lot of military rifles, their parts kits can be cut up and brought back over here, and then a different barrel, a barrel made for 308. And the bolts are strong enough for 308. That doesn't take as much pressure as the sides of the chamber. So that's the barrel is really what's made for the 308. The bolts are fine.
Again, the FAMAS Type 62. This is what it looks like in its standard configuration. Okay, and this is what it looks like. You know what they did a folding stock variant, which was just similar to what the AK had. And then they also had a bullpup style, which I guess was eventually adopted into the normal FAMAS that was designed with 5.56.
Hey, put that picture. It's bent the wrong way. The folding stock.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault. Blame the French. Blame the French.
Yeah, but I mean, so yeah, French guns are usually ahead of their time. They're just usually.
I think this one was a little ahead of its time, but I really believe that they should have invested more time into this because this might have been something that maybe everybody would have adopted. But again, also remember in the 60s, because of de Gaulle, the French dropped out of NATO. So,
the whole thing was UN and NATO and stuff like that. Is we want to have the same rifle for everything. So if the Soviets attack or we needed to attack the Soviets, everything's interchangeable.
They said that eventually, and then they said, you know what, at least, instead of the same rifle, the same caliber and magazines.
Well, that kind of leads to Tara Smith's question. It says, what is the highest grain 308 round that feeds reliably in the AR-10 mags?
Dog Bunny.
No, you could get 220 easily because that's 220, 230. I've seen that. Now you'll have to hand load them. Commercially. Usually about 170 is commercially loaded, but you could definitely do low 200s easily in a 308.
Buddy, what's the highest you were using in your?
So the highest I've ever fired. So I don't know if you can go higher than this, but from my own experience, the highest I've ever fired was a 220.
Okay.
So it's again, there's a lot of hand loaders out there. I'm sure somebody's pushed it higher than that, but that's what I used to use.
Now I have seen some guys. I've read some guys have actually taken a 338 Lapua that is like upper 200s and keep swaging them down to a 308 because they wanted a really high 200 round. But of course, this is when you're looking into hand feeding rifles. That's getting more into bolt actions than semi-autos. Semi-autos, you're talking about 170 something like that is pretty much factory, but yeah, the 220 is about as heavy as 308s will be designed for.
Right. So
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the guys you're talking about that do the like where they're swaging the bullets down and stuff. That's when you're getting into serious like competitive bench rest shooting at that point, and that's bolt rifles and stuff.
That or someone who's wanting to reach out, 2,700 meters or something like that.
okay.
Well, wait a second. If it's swaging, what's that mean? Like shaving the bullet down?
Okay, we got a question out there from Jason Stewart, and I want to address this because this is actually something I did want to talk about. So we're gonna segue into this.
Wait, can I answer this question real quick?
No, let me do it.
Swaging? No, swaging. No,
Make it quick. Make it quick.
So basically, you take a 338 or whatever caliber, and you start shrinking the diameter. So basically, you put it through a die, you start shrinking the diameter, or enlarging diameter, depending on what you're wanting to do.
Okay.
And basically, you're taking a 338 and shrinking it down to a 308. So the only way you're going to make that smaller is if you make it longer. So you have a little bit more bearing surface.
Cool.
Okay. So Jason Stewart was asking, what about the BM-59? Wasn't that better than the M14? Well, it was, but here's what the BM-59 was, okay? After World War II, the United States did the whole Lend-Lease, or they just gave the Italian military a whole bunch of M1 Garands. And then they told them in the late 50s, they told them they have to have 308 rifles. So what the Italians did was they contracted with Beretta to go and retool all the M1 Garands they were given into 308 and add a detachable magazine to the bottom of the receiver, open the bottom of the receiver out so they could accept the magazine. And there we go. You had the BM-59.
And then they also BM-59 was a conversion. Then they also started making new receivers, and they just cut the extra length out and also called them BM-59s.
Exactly.
And they were also select fire.
Yes, but some were also in full auto, auto as well.
Yeah, I have fired both the BM-59 in full auto and an M14 in full auto. The BM-59 is the better of the two rifles.
I'm not arguing on that one because
I'm not saying you're arguing. I'm just saying, I'm agreeing with you. The BM-59 is the better of the two rifles.
BM-59 is the better of the two rifles. One, not only because it's originally it comes from the basis of the M1 Garand or Garand or however you want to say it. I don't, whatever. We'll split hairs on that. Okay,
just call it the M1.
It came from the M1 30-06 rifle, and then Beretta made it better, and that's all I'm going to say on that.
I don't think it made it better. I think Beretta adopted it to the times.
Okay, I can go along with that one.
Because the gun still functions, acts the same, and it's a shortened 30-06 that extra length of the 30-06 case wasn't needed to begin with. You get the same performance out of 308 as you do as 30-06.
It's also a more comfortable rifle to shoulder.
Because it has a shorter action, meaning it pulls the weight closer to the body.
But remember, Foos, the bullet that's in the 30-06 cartridge is the same bullet that's in the 308 cartridge.
Right, right.
The only thing they did was shorten the cartridge and, maybe played with powder.
Well, the thing is that they reduced a little bit of powder, but because of the case capacity difference, you actually create the same amount of pressure and you get about the same amount of speeds out of 308 than you do a 30-06. Militarily wise, of course, you could have hand loaders or specialty stuff that could push a 30-06 vastly farther than a 308, but that is specialty stuff. The commonality stuff, you're still like 150 grain 308 versus 150 grain 30-06 from standard manufacturer, the feet per second are going to be almost identical.
Now, I do want to make a distinction here because I have some people were talking about the FAL. I don't have a lot of experience with the FAL. I don't know if did any of you guys have any experience with the FAL?
I fired a semi-auto one.
Fired a semi-auto one. So
Yeah.
it was one of the DSAs, right?
No, it was when it was a British file.
Oh, it was an inch pattern.
Yeah, it was their standard semi-auto ones, like what they used in the Falklands.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the FAL for a little bit. And if anybody says, well, NightStryke, isn't the FAL and the G3 or the SETME the same rifle? No. These are the FAL and the SETME G3 rifles are two different type of rifles. Okay. The FAL, what's the action in the FAL? Do you remember?
It's a gas piston driven system.
Yeah, it's a rotating bolt.
Yeah.
It's a rotating bolt gas piston driven rifle, whereas the G3 is a delayed roller blowback.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're not the same. And again, with the FAL was standard 20 round magazines, right?
So
If they look the same, man, I don't know.
For reloaders out there, the FAL, the AR-10, stuff like that is a lot easier on brass than a roller delayed blowback, because the gas, whenever the system fires or system reciprocates in a roller delayed blowback, the pressures inside the chamber are going to be much higher than in a gas piston gun. It's proven that if you have a gas piston gun versus a roller delayed blowback will open quicker, and it will actually be closed quicker than a gas gun, because it actually unlocks quicker.
Exactly. All right, so for clear,
you have to believe me because it's coming from a drunk man. Well, not a drunk man. Guy has been drinking.
No, not at all. So I just want to screen share an image here real quick. Okay, the top rifle right here is the FAL.
Yep.
Okay. Now, if you look at the bottom rifle, that's the G3. Okay, but for all intents and purposes, the SETME would just have wood furniture, but it'd be the same rifle as the G3. Okay. So the butt stock and the handguards would be wood, and the grip would still be plastic.
So, what is the purpose of the one on top having such a Glock type of grip on it, with it angled back so far?
That was just preference of the company.
That was the preference of the Belgians. Okay.
Belgians. Yeah.
That was the preference of the Belgians. So, as we said, the FAL is a piston driven, and you can see, if you look at this image, you can see that they've got they've got the gas piston right there, at the front sight, and the charging handle's on the left, isn't it?
No, it's on the right.
It's on the right, so that might be backwards. I don't know.
No, it's on the right.
And
no charging handle on this side.
And with the G3, the charging handle is in a tube.
FAL charging handle is on the left.
Oh, it is?
And then you can see the charging handle if you look close at that picture.
Is it right above the mag in the front?
It's right. It's right there behind the handle.
Okay.
You see it folds there.
Mm-hmm. So one good thing about the FAL that I really like over the G3 or any other firearm that I've seen is it has a lip on the left side that you could take and smack the damn mag up against and insert it, versus everything else is a flush fit. Like the G3 is the SETME on the bottom is that's G3. But it's kind of a rock. You could insert it straight, but it's easier to rock in a little bit. And you know how ARs are straight, straight inserts and stuff like that. With the FAL, one side of the magazine well is lower than the other, so you can just take and slap it and go. It's really easy to find the magazine well. I think that's a really cool design.
Yeah. So everyone, the FAL is an entirely differently designed rifle than the G3 or the SETME. Okay. So SETME equals G3, but FAL does not equal SETME or G3. Okay.
Now,
they're two different type of rifles.
Something with a roller delay blowback is, of course, go back to reloading. The brass flings out about 15 to 20 yards to your right.
Now,
I know a lot of people have shot AKs and stuff like that. The G3 will go much farther.
And somebody mentioned this, and yes, just like with your HK33 or your MP5s, the G3 and the SETMEs have that distinct, to charge the rifle, you have that distinct HK slap.
Yeah, if you lock it open, yes.
If you lock it open. But that's the same thing. If you have an HK33, which is the 5.56 version, or if you've got the MP5, which is the 9mm submachine gun version, based on the G3 design, basically you have that HK slap to load around and charge it.
Well, I got a question about one of the things AC was saying right there at the top when he was talking about the last round bolt hold open.
The G3 and variant, SETME and G3 variants do not have a bolt hold open. That's the only thing they don't have.
So what is the advantage and disadvantage of the bolt hold open? Like, why isn't that something that every gun has got?
Well,
or is there disadvantages to that?
Well, remember, with the G3 and the SETME, or any of the variants of, you can hold the bolt open manually and lock it in place. Okay. Yes. Whereas, and that's where you get the HK slap to load around and charge it. Okay. But again, when it's empty, it doesn't hold open. You have to manually pull back the lever and lock it into place.
Yeah, I understand all that.
The advantage of it is you have a different, like anybody shoots an AR, you're shooting just fine, then that bolt locks back. It is a different impulse on your shoulder, and you start pulling trigger. You're not going to have that click. You're not going to have that anything. So you take and you slap another mag in it, and like an AR, you hit your paddle release and the bolt close. That is a very distinct advantage, and is very. I would rather have a gun with bolt hold open than one with a not. The reason that some people go without one is because of cost. It's a little added cost to have that in there. It all depends on what on what a country values or what a manufacturer values.
Well, real quick, I'd like to add, aside from cost, I've heard the argument about them liking the system to remain closed. But then again, that could just be an excuse for cheaping out. So,
well, could it be something? We are talking about battle rifles, so could it be a military application that, sand, rain, mud, snow, whatever type of element you might be in, you don't want that face to be open because you don't want nature getting down inside there.
Yeah,
that's the argument that I've heard, but at the same time, I just don't. You're talking about a combat rifle. I don't know why it would be left open in the first place if it wasn't in use. You know what I mean?
But you think about the AR. Last round, it holds open, and you have the dust cover's been open, so you have that ingress of junk that could go in through the ejection port. But is that a huge thing? Because soon you're going to know when that bolt locks back. Everyone's felt that on ARs. It feels vastly different. So you put in another mag and slap the damn thing closed.
Well, that's kind of what I would think is if I'm at war, and I agree, I felt that. I know exactly when my gun is empty. It's clear as can be.
Well,
with an AR, I slap a new magazine, drop the bolt catch, and I'm ready to go.
So,
With one, if the bolt is closed, you got to put your magazine in and then chamber the round.
yeah, so let's say you are in a war scenario or shit hit the fan situation. You go and you start, shooting. Like if I was in the SHTF situation and I had my C308 as my firearm, every time I stopped firing, I would put a new mag in and rack the round out because it does not have a last hold open. I do not know if there's a round in the chamber without dropping the mag, looking at the mag. Okay, there's rounds in the mag, so that means there's a round in my gun. If I'm in SHTF, I'm going to drop that mag. Yes, I'll probably pocket it for rounds or whatever, but I'll slap a new mag in there and run the bolt.
Okay,
make sure I have a round in there.
We got some talk out there on the YouTube side where AC97 is explaining to Gavit comments about the difference between the FAL and the SETME G3 platforms. And yeah, the FAL has an adjustable gas system. It's got a gas piston. Okay, that's the system that's in the FAL. The SETME G3 has a delayed roller blowback. If you're going to ask, well, what is that? Okay, think of the system that's in the MG42. The G3, the SETME uses the same type of delayed roller blowback system as later MG42s used.
So, does everyone understand what a straight blowback gun is? Like a 32 auto or anything like that, where it takes the weight of the bolt and the spring pressure to keep it closed enough for it to drop to correct pressures. Basically, the roller delay blowback adds a little bit of extra tension on that, with the rollers going into the sides of the barrel wall to keep it closed long enough for the pressures to drop. It's the same thing. You have so much pressure going back on it, and actually pressure goes through the firing pin channel and acts on the bolt before the head releases, so that bolt will drop back ever so slightly, and that will allow the rollers to go in, and then the entire thing to cycle because there's still so much pressure in the system. So let's say, for instance, you shoot an AR-10 or a gas piston. The barrel is, the projectile is, let's say, 100 feet down range before you start unlocking your bolt. In a C308 or roller delay blowback, before you start unlocking, the bullet may be only 10 feet down the barrel. Not down the barrel, but out of the barrel. So it opens at a much higher pressure because the system needs that extra pressure to reciprocate because of the locking system.
Yep. Real quick, while you guys were talking about the G3 and all that, and the SETMEs and everything, I went and looked up the ASIN 308. It does use AR-10 magazines.
That's good.
So just to clarify, because we couldn't. Some were saying thin, some were saying so. Yeah, it does. It has basically an AR-15 or AR-10, excuse me, style. Well, I guess AR-15 too, because they basically use the same kind of magwell. But it uses that style magwell. The lock on those.
And we just got the comment in asking about why we were saying the FAL and the M1 were better for brass. When we're talking about what's better for the brass, essentially it's because some systems are not going to chew up your brass, and some systems are, and that's caused by depending on how they operate, you're going to end up with the brass taking in more of the pressure. So like a delayed blowback is going to sit there in the pressure of as it's firing for a longer period of time and have to take more of that pressure on itself. So it's going to deform more and it's going to wear out more. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about what's better for brass.
Right. And it ejects at a much higher pressure. So that brass is coming back and, number one, being ripped out of the chamber more. So there's more pressure on the rim, more pressure at the base of the cartridge because you're pulling it out at a higher pressure. and then you're flinging it out at a higher pressure, and all brass is going to come back and catch your receiver before it jumps out. And a lot of these, as that bolt's cycling at a very high rate of speed, that brass is coming out, that brass is hitting that ejector, and it's coming around, smacking the side of your firearm, and that's where you get all the dents and stuff from your cases before it goes off into La La Land and hit the ground.
And AC97 says later MG42s misspeaking happens. Okay, AC97, I have to call you out right now. I have to tell you, go to Wikipedia. Scroll down to the MG45, which was the 1945 variant of the MG42. It's delayed roller blowback. It's also what they used to make the MG3.
I was about to say, yeah, I was about to correct you on the MG42 versus MG45. They're different firearms. MG42 uses a slanting bolt, I think.
Yeah. MG42V is what was the original designation, and they changed it to the MG45 in Germany, and it was delayed roller blowback. It did exist, and later
it existed in a prototype and never went in production, and it wasn't a true MG42.
So it actually went into production a little bit in Soviet Union.
The Soviets did. The Germans never really did anything with it.
Yeah.
But the MG3 did get parts of that too. So
yeah.
And the MG3 is still used by Germany. Just saying. So I am right on that. But I know it wasn't widespread, but it did exist.
Most squad automatic or suppression full battle rifles in the world, if you look at its lineage, it's traced back to the MG42. That gun was a absolute beast.
It was, and that I know we're specifically talking about 308 battle rifles here, but the MG45 or MG42V specifically, but that was delayed roller blowback.
But those aren't battle rifles. Those are more.
Those were machine guns.
Yeah.
But they laid the groundwork for the design of the SETB, the G3, and later rifles, and machine pistols or submachine guns that use delayed roller blowback like the MP5.
So I know we're still talking about nothing but 308, but I know we talked about the Moss a little bit. Do we also want to talk about battle rifles that are maybe different calibers?
See, I thought
Travis wanted us to stick with 308 battle rifles.
Okay.
So we're going. So we're sticking with that. We got about half an hour left. So
really,
well, I got a
really, we do.
How, as far as the bolt action rifles go, where do they? We're talking about semi-automatics, but how about bolt action? Where do they fit into the battle rifle scenario?
They don't, because a battle rifle technically was a semi-automatic or a full automatic rifle.
Right, I get that.
No.
I'm talking about
a modern rifle is a rifle, but an older battle rifle was the bolt actions.
Well, that's more of a mainline rifle instead of a battle rifle.
Well,
no, because in World War II you had M1 carbines, you had submachine guns. Stuff like that. Those are still rifles. And, the M1 carbine is kind of intermediate.
That was used as a PDW.
Yes.
It really was. And it was
also, so the 351 Winchester, if you start looking in the Soviet, in the 20s, they started developing stuff in 351 Winchester that's intermediate cartridge.
Yeah, they did. The Soviet.
How many of you guys saw the latest Forgotten Weapons?
Yeah, the Forgotten Weapons movie that was that debuted today. I was about to say, Ian was just interviewing I can't remember his name, but he was a Russian guy that was talking about the development of the AK, and he was talking about how that was a predecessor that led up to the competitions eventually that created the AK in the 20s when they were developing using the 351 Winchester.
Yep, and a lot of countries started using the 351 Winchester as they were starting to get to self-loading rifles because it was an intermediate cartridge that was created by us, actually before World War I. So, yeah.
You guys, when you're talking about forgotten weapons, are you talking about the latest video that they put out, the development history of AK with Max?
Yes, that one.
Yes.
At the first 5 or 10 minutes, they talk about the 351 Winchester, and it's really cool.
They start by explaining how the 7.62 by 39 millimeter round came about, and that was one of the things that led to it was the 351 Winchester.
Yep, and how the AK-47, that's only the prototypes. Everything else is just AK.
Yeah, except for the AKM.
Yes. That's really cool. I watched that over lunch and dinner after work, and it was.
Yeah, I watched that earlier today too. That was a good interview, and that was just the first part. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah, because the guy said he wants to come back and talk about
RPKs,
the development of the AK and the RPK.
Yeah, no kidding. So yeah, I mean, full power 308s. There's quite a few guns out there. I bet you say 10, 12 of them, different designs. And I know, Kel-Tec has some not Fab Defense, but there's another one that's making a bullpup style.
Right.
That's so that there's the 308, of course, isn't dead as a rifle, a semi-auto rifle.
No, it's not. It's still got some life in it.
It has life. It has staying power. I don't think it has life. It's not because if you say, hey, it has life, that means it's probably going to have a resurgence. I think it's just staying power. Just like 40 is not going to have a resurgence, but it has staying power.
I would define 308 to 40.
Yeah, I would think that 308's quite a popular round, especially in the United States. I don't think it's got any problems going anywhere.
It's not good, but we're talking battle rifles.
Right.
Battle rifle, the 308 is pretty much dead on any further development. Adopted battle rifle. Mostly what you're going to see with the 308 is going to be sniper rifle usage, which is still used in that capacity, and it's still used as a DMR. But as a mainline battle rifle, no, it's not going to be.
But you start talking about a DMR or a sniper rifle, there's better calibers out there that do that.
Yeah, but it's still used for both, and they're still developing rifles around it.
Oh, well, absolutely. But the future development is going to be in 338s or 6.5 stuff.
Okay.
Well, no, there's different use sniper rifles. If you're talking super long range sniper rifle, yeah, they're going to go with 30. They do have the 338, and they do have the 50 cal, and they do have others. But for the mainline standard sniper rifle, the 308 is still the caliber of choice for that.
Well, and
just because of NATO.
Let Dogbody speak.
Since we were talking about bolt actions, the British still have, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the L96, the Accuracy International.
Yep.
We'll use that, and it's a bolt action rifle.
The L96 was retired. They got the what is it now? I can't remember. Ian just did a video on the whole series of the British sniper rifles. Well, the L96 was retired, and they got the Arctic Warfare rifle was now been developed to another stage that replaced the L96, and then now they got the further development of what they call the Arctic Warfare rifle. That's now the sniper rifle. It's M1 something or other.
But for the purpose of this conversation, it was a bolt action battle rifle that you could still buy. And I believe you can still acquire the L96. So if you wanted for the definition that was set for this was a battle rifle that was used militarily in a theater of war, that's the only one that I can think of that you could actually get your hands on right now. As far as modern, even if they stopped using it. because it's still in production.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and make it. I put the link to the Forgotten Weapons over on the YouTube chat, and it's a YouTube video. But if you want to watch it better and see cooler content on a place that doesn't hate your guns, go over to gunchannels.com, and on the main page, Robbie posted the video. So you can go watch it over there.
It is an awesome video. It's, what, 33, 38 minutes, something like that?
Yeah, it's in the 30-some minute range.
It is amazing.
And
Now-
it plays way better. 33 minutes is such a better view when you watch it on gunchannels.com.
Now,
But that guy gets so much info into that 30-some minute video. It's unreal.
The information sounds so much more clear when you watch it on gunchannels.com.
Right. Now, I wanna get this clear because we were talking about sniper variants and variants of the M14, which there's the M39, but there's also the M21 and the M25.
So,
respectively.
and Germany also, inside the HK-G3 line, they also have an accurized rifle of a sniper variant DMR of that.
Yes, but they made that specifically for the Olympics.
Well, after the Olympics, yeah.
Still,
No, it was specifically made for the one of the 1970s Olympics.
It still
The 72.
exists.
It still exists. They made a ton of them. What was that? That's the
That's the PSG-1.
PSG. That's right. And again, they also had a machine gun variant of the G3, which is the MSG.
Yeah, MSG-90, I think.
Yes.
The PSG-1 is an interesting gun because that is one of the few guns that that became battle rifles that didn't have war behind its motivation. That was after the terror attacks at the one Olympics, and they they specifically wanted to build a rifle for the next Olympics.
Right. Here, let me see if I can pull up a PSG image. Here, I'll take it from. This is one of the PSGs that we're talking about, which is the sniper, the accurized version. You can tell it's got a different type stock on it. It's got a specialized grip on it. Also, it's got a more solid handguard. And you also see, because it's got a scope, it's got an absence of the front sight block.
And the rear, and you see how that scope is pulled back far enough to where you could actually engage the HK slap.
Yep.
Magazines down to 5 rounds instead of 20.
Exactly.
It is
Yeah, but where am I
semi-auto.
going to put my M-lock rail and my light?
Well, on this rifle, you're not. This rifle is for you to go and shoot in competition.
So your laser, the laser for your rifle is held in your left hand.
The only thing I would change about that gun that I'm looking at right now is the bottom of the hand grip, that black knob. If that wasn't there, that gun would be perfect.
That's just to put on the ground.
That's also there because when they were designing that gun, they were envisioning shooters having to sit in a position with that gun for long periods of time.
Again, here's another variant of the PSG-1. This is the MSG-9. Well, not the PSG-1, but the G3. We were talking about the machine gun variant, which was the MSG-90. This is the machine gun variant, which it looks a little bit also like the PSG. I don't know why they did this, but this is the machine gun variant.
Just a quick PSA to everybody. I celebrate every holiday, every religious event, and every other thing that you give people gifts for. So, just saying.
So, again,
So basically, what you're saying is that you want a GoFundMe created to fund, so everyone collectively could fund for every holiday that presents gifts for you.
So,
Well, I mean, yeah, that, or you could just find it deep in your heart that you want to give me something for President's Day.
so
well, no.
yeah.
So talking about holidays and stuff like that, start looking at India holidays.
Oh my
There's
God.
a ton of them that gifts are given.
I
Like,
celebrate all of them.
yeah,
I can't go to India because I like beef.
I hear
And
you.
they don't eat beef in India.
dude,
It's
no.
sacred.
That they serve beef over there. You're just going to hell.
Well, you know what? I'm not part of their religion, so I'm not going to their hell.
That's fine. Their house blowing up toilets.
Yeah, right. So
Not with the boom kind, but with the kind.
yeah. So all right. So we have any questions out there? Any comments? Let's go. Go ahead.
Questions,
go through.
comments, things you want to talk about.
Yeah. So we got a few minutes left. So if you guys have any questions or comments, we
wait.
can.
Caliber corner or caliber corner?
Caliber corner.
Okay. I look at that as like caliber corner, like someone died corner.
Yeah, guy that
That's how I read it.
comments does have a question now, guys. Again, but yeah, he's full of questions tonight.
Well,
So
he's the guy in the comments.
Yeah, so in terms of lending themselves to mounting optics, it's 1 AR-10, 2 FAL SETME G3, 3 M1A. No, the
No,
M1A, depending on the variant you get, is very able to mount the optic.
Yeah, I would put M1A at number 2.
Yes.
And then the FAL and the SETME G3s as far as the
So-
FAL and then SETME.
So
G3.
the reason the SETME and G3s and FALs don't have a good place for optics,
I can show you right now. I
Well,
still got
well,
that image up.
right now, but
You
it's
see,
yeah.
you see right there, you have to have a you see there's 2
clamp.
indentations right in front on the side of the rifle, right in front where the rear sight is. That you have to have a clamp that clamps onto it, and the clamp doesn't always work.
So well it works if it's fitted to the receiver at build time. The reason that these 2 rifles are set up the way they are is because optic technology at that time could not handle a semi-auto fire and stay zeroed.
Well, yeah,
That came much later because you have to think both these rifles were
Full auto.
well, no, not just full auto, but were designed shortly after World War II.
But they were probably also designed for close quarters combat, not long distance range. I mean,
Well,
they probably were point and shoots.
It's both. It's both. It's developed for long range because of the cartridge.
Yeah, the British in particular used their rifles for long range. That's why they only had semi-auto. They didn't want their troops out there spraying 308 ammo everywhere, so they made semi-auto, and that gave them actually more controllability firing at longer ranges because it didn't have the full auto.
Right, but those 2 guns that NightStryke was showing, is that the same thing? Is that what you're talking about there? I'm just talking about those 2 specific guns.
Well, I don't know if that's a full auto FAL or if that's the British,
right.
because you can't see the markings on it.
Well, either way, I'm talking like that's not that.
No, those were 2 semi-autos.
Yeah, the average troop that's got one of
but-
those in his hands isn't going to be taking 1,000-yard shots at somebody.
Correct, but you have to think
You could with the FAL.
both these rifles were developed at the tail end of World War II.
Yeah, and later
The
FALs.
G3 and the FAL were very tail end, so that they both had full auto, semi-auto capabilities. Britain went with a FAL with semi-auto only because of paddle rifle. You really don't need unless it's a suppression roll, a full auto. The reason that they weren't designed for optics is because optics at that time couldn't handle the recoil of a full auto or semi-auto battle rifle.
Yeah,
Now
and
the
later
optics can. And when the AR-10 came on in the 50s and 60s, from 45 or 46 at
Later half of the 50s.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but from then to the 50s, optics. Well, I mean, even the AR-10, whenever it came on, there was no optics rail on it. It was a carry handle. You start doing that, you get into the 60s and 70s, whenever you start getting optics that hold 0 with the recoil, and then all of a sudden in the 90s, 2000s, having all these red dots that can hold the recoil, that's when they're like, okay, we need to start designing these receivers, these uppers, to mount optics. That's when they changed it. And those rifles those older rifles made in the 40s, late 40s, weren't designed to have it. Like if you go to a PTR 91 or C308, they have the Picatinny rail loaded on the top of it. Now, back in the day, if they knew, hey, we're going to need to have optics on this stuff, they'd probably mold that to have a different shape on the top to be able to have a different optic on it. It's the rifle designs of those two, the FAL and the G3, are the way they are because everything was iron sights at the time.
Yeah,
and
and later,
were used
the later FALs or the FALs, whatever you want to call them, they actually had almost like an AK style optics mounting bracket on the side where you would put the thing on there like you would with the AK, so that you can mount a scope on top. So they could be used as a DMR. You could take a pretty decently accurate long range shot with them. So they,
What we're getting around to ultimately is the time period that the guns were developed, and at their height, we had a gap between firearm technology and optic technology.
So we talk about firearm technology. The big thing about firearm technology now is not in the firearm; it's going to be in the optics. That is going to be what gains you the most benefit until we figure out a different way to send a mass of a projectile down a barrel at a high rate of speed differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you could a lot of people say that we are currently in the glass age, because that's where all the improvements can happen.
It's all in electronics to make it easier for you to put the dot or crosshair or whatever on target and the round get there.
Yeah, no, what makes the AR-10 so much better for optics mounting is the fact that they have that you can have almost a full length rail all the way across the top, just like you would in the AR-15, which gives you so much as far as options are concerned for mounting optics on those rifles.
But if you think about it, let's say the G3, if you look at a PTR or a C308 or something like that that's made here in the U.S., they have Picatinny rail welded to the top. So you look at, let's say, okay, you make a modern day PTR that you want to not use additional parts or, whatever. You're going to have a flat top. You're going to have the everything inside, instead of being totally rounded, you're going to mill off the top. You're going to make it flat. You're going to make it optics ready. And you can have all the way out to that front. NightStryke, can you bring up that picture again?
Which one?
The one with the FAL and the G3?
Yeah, let me bring it up again real quick.
So let's say you have this FAL and G3 made today. And as soon as he brings it up, I'll describe what I'm talking about.
All right.
Like with the AR-10 and stuff like that, you have a flat top of you have the gas port and you have all that stuff, and you have
here we go.
room up there. But if you have the G3 and the FAL, which are pictured here before right now, if these are designed today, the top quarter inch would be totally flat, and you'd have Picatinny rail from site to site, and then you'd be able to mount whatever red dot you want. You'd have Picatinny rail or whatever on the side, or M-lock or whatever all the way around on both, and it would be designed that way. And so you could mount your flashlights, lasers, red dots, whatever on there. It's just because of the time they were designed, those optics weren't available. The G3 is 70 years old.
Let me pull up an image of a C308 from Century, so people understand what we're talking about. because that will give a really good indication on where Century specifically places the Picatinny rail.
Mhm.
All right.
Yep. So
All right. Let me see if I can.
or you could, if you think about that other one, there's a Picatinny rail welded to the top.
Here, come on.
It just slaps on the very top. So it adds an extra quarter to a half inch offset on the top.
All right. I'm gonna blow the image up a little bit.
All right.
Giggity. But
yeah. Hey. With you, from what I've heard, you need it blown up.
Okay.
So
this is a Century C308. Yes, it's got a polymer, or it's got a polymer grip housing, and it's using a SETME magazine. Got the wood furniture, so this is something closer to what I have right now. Okay, this is what I've got. Now with the C308, they weld a rail right in front of the front, the rear sight, like we're talking about. So you can put an optic right there.
So if this gun was designed today, instead of just adding that Picatinny rail on the top, where all it looks like shark teeth up there, they would actually take, in my opinion, they would actually lower all that into the rail and shave off the very top of everything from sight to sight.
They would. And
make it flat on top. The reason they made it round on top right now. The reason it's that way is because round, well, whenever you start moving stuff back and forth, round on round is easier than square on square. But for an optics, they'd put square on square.
Yeah. So, let's see if I can find another image which is a bit closer. How about this one? Yeah, this one's a closer up image. Giggity. All right. Again, the same rifle, but you can get a better idea of the Picatinny rail that they weld on. Yeah, it still has the mount points for the claw mark, but you can't put a claw on there because they welded that rail to the top.
Right.
You see?
And I mean that weld. I mean it's good.
It's on there. It ain't coming off.
I actually fixed my rear aperture. I actually got another pin in there, and I got it working because my pin actually started walking out.
That's odd because I don't have that problem.
Yeah. So I had that issue, and that's when I went and I'm like, well, I'm just going to put a red dot on it. So that's why I put a red dot on it with the AR style rear sight, or offset, which kicked it real high. And that's when it started hitting my front. I was like, no, I'm going back.
Guy that comments, unless you got about $30,000, you're not getting an M14. Now, if we're talking an M1A, okay,
40,000 maybe.
Yeah.
So, if you've been listening for a while, I said that I bought a C308. Bring that picture back up. Okay, so this is what my receiver and upper looks like.
Same. Mine's the same.
So you could buy a full auto receiver or trigger pack, which is in this polymer, this light gray area right here, which I'm circling, and you can't see my screen.
This one right here.
Yeah. So that is your trigger pack. You could have full auto trigger packs just fine. Not an issue. But anyway, mine is polymer like that.
But they got a shelf right here.
Yes. So there's a shelf right there that contains your full auto parts, in quotes. I went, and this is a C308. I've added a paddle release.
A paddle that goes right here, right behind the mag, right here.
Can you bring up a PTR 91, the new PTR 91?
I can. Let me go get the PTR 91 so people know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So PTR 91s are coming out with that already added to it. If you buy a C308 and you want that added to it, it's going to be about $240, $250 to get it done, quality done. So you're looking at let's say a $700 rifle. Add another $250, $300, whatever. you're looking at $1,000. You might as well go out and get a PTR 91 that it has a better rear sight and a better front sight, meaning that in a C308 on the semis, the front sight is a
now this is a close up, but there's the shelf. There's the shelf we're talking about to prevent full auto because we can only have semi-auto. And here and underneath, you see that's the paddle mag release.
Yes,
that goes right there. Okay, that's what we're talking about. I'll try and see if I can get a better picture than this, but for all intents and purposes, that's what we're talking about.
Also, because this is a roll pin right here, this picture is actually illegal. Well, if it goes all the way through the other side.
It probably doesn't.
Because the ATF for this is a pinhole that goes completely through. If that roll pin goes completely through, which hopefully it does not, that would make it a quote-unquote full auto.
And you should weld it back. They really should weld it on, weld that hole out.
They should.
Or something, weld a hole there because.
So that's just legal sense. But if you are wanting that paddle mag release, because if you're shooting and you want to go up and I'm just going to hit that paddle up there, that round button that you see up there, it's out of reach of your finger. So you have to get off the grip, go up there, push it, and it's very stiff, and then rip the mag out, put a new mag in, and then go. That's why I got the paddle mag release. That's why that paddle mag release is there. If you want that paddle mag release, don't get a C308 and then go to a good gunsmith that knows how to do it, because not many gunsmiths know how to put paddle mags on.
I do.
The one that knows how to really
there's a tool
that deals with HKs, and then they can do it. Yeah, but it'll cost you a little bit,
Yeah, but again, I'm if it's me, I'm probably gonna get it.
Right, but if you're handy, that's fine. Just don't drill all the way through, because you are quote unquote. If you drill through both sides of that receiver,
I broke my own rule. I'm sorry.
Yes, you did.
I broke my own rule.
If you drill through and through, per ATF, you have created a full auto. So just be careful.
I'm going to use an Atlantic Firearms picture. So, Atlantic Firearms, call me. But where was it? Here. No, it's not pulling up. All right, I'm going to, there, right here.
Open so new tab. That's what mine looks.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's a PTR. Yes, I know it's Atlantic Firearms, but what we're talking about is this paddle right here behind the mag. You can only get this on a PTR rifle. You can't get that with this. The C308 doesn't have that, and we're talking about that right there.
Yes, it makes it so much easier to grab and release that magazine.
Foos, let me ask you this: you're right-handed, aren't you?
Yes.
I'm left-handed, and I find that the normal push button is easier for me.
Okay, because you're left-handed. So one thing about these guns, these barrels and these handguards get extremely hot. So whenever I shoot, I put my hand on the mag.
You're usually holding the front of the mag like you would on an AR.
Yes,
is what he's saying. So
if you are left-handed, that push button, which can you circle up the push button with your mouse?
Yes, the push button is this button right here. Okay,
so
it's similar to an AR push button.
Yeah, if you're holding the magazine and you push that button, it's easy to release. Absolutely fine. But I'm a right-handed, so I'm there, and it's on the wrong side. So I grab that magazine, the tab there on the bottom, and I grab that and I rock it out, grab another one, shove it in, and then my charging handle's there on my left side, and I grab that and rack it to load it and go.
Yeah. I mean, I've actually even thought about going and getting, the HK ambidextrous safety, just because, I wouldn't mind being able to just, use it on the right side too.
So a lot of those don't work with the polymer grips.
Yeah, I have to get the metal grip. I know. I understand that, Foos. Thank you.
I have a metal grip, but it doesn't work with my frame, with my upper.
Because it's not cut.
It needs to be cut,
there.
right?
It needs to be cut, yeah. So,
well, because my polymer, like, see how, if you bring that picture back up?
all right, I'll bring it back up one more time, damn it.
So if you see that polymer in the safety area, that's completely flush. My safety is off is off of a SIMI with a metal receiver, metal trigger pack instead of a polymer trigger pack. So mine is actually shorter, so mine is recessed a little bit on this side in my C3 light. No big deal.
Right. And granted, remember, I switched my lower out for a PTR lower on my SETME because the trigger pack I got with my rifle was garbage. So I just used the PTR, and the PTR works wonderfully. We used it the other day when AWAC came over, and it was fun.
Wait, you've met the smiling face?
The smiling yellow face, yes. If you check out my channel, Foos, I got a video called
I ain't subscribed to you.
The New Jersey Reload, and you need to go check that out because that is AWAG 1000 right there.
I am not subscribed to you.
Why aren't you? I'm subscribed to you.
Well, that's because I don't put many videos out.
Well, stop being such a snob and help a brother out.
Actually, I am subscribed to you, and I've seen that video. I just wanted to, because I haven't been on in a while, I just wanted to.
Yeah. Besides, I do need to talk to you after we're done here, so just letting you know, stick around, right?
OHELL hockey stick.
Hey,
Wait,
guess who's got another question, guys? He wants to know, so the benefit of an AR-10 is belt-fed upper. Haven't heard of belt-fed M1A or FAL/G3, which I don't know why he keeps insisting FAL and G3 are the same thing. So
I have never seen an AR-10 belt-fed upper. I've seen 9mm and I've seen 5.56. I've never seen it jump to 308.
Yeah,
I haven't either.
But there's too much heat there. There's too much mechanical things in that area. It's not a good thing to have.
Yeah, personally, I don't see the point in a belt-fed rifle anyway.
Unless it's full auto.
Right. So, again, the FAL is different from the SETME G3 platform. Those are closer related. The FAL is not related whatsoever because the FAL is Belgian. The SETME G3, German designs, one made by Spain, one made by Germany.
So the FAL is closer to an AR-10 than it is a G3 because of how the bolt works.
All right, where's that? There we go. The right image. There we go. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up, guys. Okay, got it? Comments. I'm gonna put this in order for you so you understand. Number 1, AR-10, great for optics. Number 2, great for optics, is the M1A. Current production M1As. Okay.
Wait. I would put the SCAR heavy above both of those.
Okay. The SCAR 17.
He doesn't have that in his list of rifles.
He did not have that in his list, but you know what? Okay. Number 3. We're putting number 3. I'm not a fan of the SCAR, but SCAR's at number 3 because I said so. All right.
I won't be tied with the AR-10 because it's still got that same style upper with the full.
I don't care. This is the grading. Number 4, the SETME G3.
No.
Number 5, the FAL. There you go.
Why do you put the G3 above the FAL for optics?
Because of the claw. At least with the G3 and the SETME, they came up with the claw idea. But if you look at the FAL, they had no idea. They got nothing there. FAL has nothing there.
No. both of them had optics on it. I would actually put the FAL above the G3 for optics because of where the charging handle is. I love the G3. I mean, yeah, I love the G3 because that's the battle rifle I have. That's the one I chose because of price. Absolutely because of price. I wanted a 308 semi-auto, and it was I couldn't pass it up. I got it for actually just over $400 shipped to me, FL and everything. I thought,
all right, so that's pretty much 308 battle rifles. We went all over the board. We talked about everything. I even messed up and said one curse word, and Travis is going to yell at me for that. And I'm sorry, Travis. But
is this on his channel?
No, it's not on his channel. It's on my channel.
Screw him.
He already told you it didn't matter because it was on your channel.
But I'm filling in for Travis, and I'm trying to be good. So Foos, come on, let's just reel it in here. So I want to thank Foos for showing up halfway and helping us out. So thank you, Foos, for showing up.
I like him. I tolerate you.
Thanks, Foos.
No, you're not. No.
Real quick, guy that comments, just to answer your last question, any one of those rifles can be just as accurate as the other. It just depends on the individual rifle, because you can accuratize them and everything else. So to say one's more accurate than the other really isn't accurate.
Okay, we're not answering any more questions.
Hold on. The AR-10 can be accurized cheaper than every other rifle because of the way the gas system is. What was that?
I said, yeah, but that doesn't necessarily make it more accurate. It just makes it cheaper to make it more accurate. But the base question is, any one of those rifles can be just as accurate as the other.
So you cannot free float a G3 because of where the charging handle is above.
Yeah, but you'll also hear some experts now saying that free floating isn't as big a deal as what they thought it was. So there's all kinds of.
If you get the harmonics right.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so Foos, again, thanks for jumping in and helping out. I appreciate your perspective, and I thank you for helping me with this topic because I wasn't quite sure where this was going to go.
Hey, me with alcohol, always a good time.
That's right. John, you kind of left us there in the middle. Thanks for jumping in though, and hanging out when you did.
Sorry about that. I don't talk much.
Okay.
My tinnitus, I got to mute because there's a lot of noise around here, and with my tinnitus, I can't hear it. So, thank you for inviting me.
No problem. All right, Kingpin, thanks for jumping in.
Thanks for having me, man.
No problem. All right. Rich,
do I see a Travis?
Hey, what's up, boys?
Hey.
Well, I didn't get hit with any discus, so that's good.
Well, we're closing up. So,
no, it's all good.
Rich, thanks for jumping in and hanging out and giving us your perspective.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Okay.
Now that Travis is here, I need to drop out.
Oh my God! Oh man!
No, and Travis, thanks for making it the Caliber Corner for the ending. So everyone, check out Caliber Corner normally on P11's channel on YouTube and on GunTube.org. So with that, we'll see you guys next week on Travis's channel. Thanks for jumping in.
Hold on.
Thanks for asking questions. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Before we go, I have to ask Travis a question.
Yo.
Do you want to have a tabletop review of a Makarov?
Dude, don't even play with me like that. Why would you even ask that? You know what? Because when I do, it's going to be my own, okay? I will have my Makarov in the sun. I tell you this right now.
We're ending on that note.
No. Hold on. At Tulsa, I was talking to Stan. I'm like, I need to send that Makarov to you and just have Travis review it. Just say, Travis, I have something for you. You'll like it. And and have you review it. I still need to do that. Just because
That'd be
I
freaking
love
awesome.
it, bro.
That'd be awesome, man. I love you too, man. I love you too. Wait a minute, what?
No.
I don't know. You might get a
No
a
homo.
PayPal payment for me for that Makarov, and I'm like, hey, I've already paid you for it, so I can't send it back now. So Wait a minute, what?
So, all right, guys. We'll see you later. I got to kill this one. I got stuff I got to do. So, we'll see you next week on Travis's channel. Travis,
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry, Travis. I swore once, and that was it.
Yeah. All right, it's okay. I'm gonna go back and listen to this whole show, and I'm gonna go ahead and grade it and give you guys like an evaluation and stuff, just to make sure it meets the mediocre standards of my own program. So yeah.
Oh, it's well below that.
You're a teacher. You just gotta
Travis,
grade every day.
A new standard of yearly progress. Yeah.
At least give me a C+, and we're good.
Hey,
all right.
After this, Travis, you only have up. There's no way you can go lower.
No. From here,
Unless I'm there too.
Yeah, we can only go up from the bottom. We can only start at the bottom and go up. So, yep.
Yeah, once you get rock bottom, you can't fall any lower.
This is true. This is true.
All right, I'm hitting the button, Frank.